The New York Islanders head south to face the Florida Panthers tonight. We have a special crossover episode with Armando Velez of Locked On Florida Panthers. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this crossover edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast and the Locked On New York Islanders podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making both of our Locked On podcasts your first listen of the day. For everybody on the Islanders feed, let me introduce myself. My name is Armando Velez from the Hockey News, and you can follow me on X at MonoMan12. Follow the show account on X at @LO_FLA Panthers. And very thankful to be doing this crossover edition with not only the host of Locked On Islanders, but I would say a prominent voice on the Locked On NHL network as the Monday and Friday host on Locked On NHL, Gil Martin. Gil, great to be getting together with you.
Always a pleasure, Armando. And, these two teams, if you look at it, they've been so connected over the course of their histories. And, too bad I'm not going down to Florida to enjoy this game in person, but great to do this crossover with you always.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this game specifically, as far as the theming of the night for the Florida Panthers, because they're theming this as 2010's night as their 30th anniversary, and it happens to be against the New York Islanders, who eliminated the Florida Panthers in the 2016 postseason. Which, crazy enough, they have Kyle Okposo on the team from that New York Islanders team that defeated the Florida Panthers in 6 games. But we are in 2024, so let's talk about the current state of the Islanders for them, Gil. And it's been a up and down season for them. I mean, late January, the island Lou Lamoriello decides to let go of Lane Lambert and all, even though the Florida Panthers did already have one game against the Patrick Waugh and the New York Islanders at the time, which was January 27th, where the Florida Panthers won 4-3 in overtime, which in both games of the season series, Anthony Stolarz has been between the pipes for the Florida Panthers. But in both of the games, Panthers got 45 shots on the first one, 37 in the other one, but still 1-goal games between that. Just goes to show the goaltending for the New York Islanders, how great, just even if the defense isn't the best around them, they still can keep you in games. But I want to go really to that because, I mean, the New York Islanders, they've dealt. I know last time they dealt with an injury to Adam Pelech, but also Noah Dobson has just been a guy who's just been taken a big step forward this season as a guy taking more responsibility, despite everything that's gone on as far as coaching change. How great has it been to see Noah Dobson grow as a player?
It's been exciting. And look, he's slumped a little bit offensively, maybe in the last 5 or 6 games, but overall, he is just having an outstanding offensive season. And, 57 assists in 71 games, 65 points in 71 games, 23 of those assists coming on the power play. He is their best, puck handling defenseman. He sort of is the catalyst that makes the offense go. It's him and Matthew Barzal who are really the guys who will skate with the puck and move the puck and sort of get things going for this team offensively. So it's been great to see Dauber grow year after year. And finally, he still needs to work a little on his defense. He can cough it up a little bit in his own zone, but offensively, he is up there with any defenseman in the league as far as what he can contribute.
Yeah, and speaking of defense for the New York Islanders, just looking at their record since Patrick Waugh has taken over, exact record, like exactly at 500, 11-11-4 for them. Spoke a little bit earlier in the season as far as the previous matchups about third periods, as far as the Islanders about blowing games, but also under Patrick Waugh, I've seen that the even strength numbers have improved much, but as far as the special teams, not so much in that. As far as especially the PK is how are you viewing as far as the PK? Is it more of Patrick Waugh's change in system, or is it just him, just trying to get to know the players, or is it more like just how everything is constructed?
I think it is how it's constructed, and the coaches in charge of the power play and the penalty kill have not changed. So I mean, Wah has made some subtle changes to the PK, but overall, based on the players that are there, you'd think they do better. I mean, JG Pajot is a solid penalty killer. Cal Clutterbuck, Casey Cizikas, these are guys who have been killing penalties for 8, 9, 10 years. So you would think they would be better at it, but it has been a disaster all season long for the New York Islanders, and the change in coaching hasn't stopped it. Look, right now, the Islanders have the worst PK in the NHL, only killing off 71.9% of opposing power plays. This is a big chance for the Florida Panthers to take advantage of that situation.
Yeah, and for the Panthers, I mean, Sam Reinhart, who's almost at 30 power play goals, already has already has the franchise record in it. So it's a great opportunity for them. But when it comes to, it's crazy because the New York Islanders, I mean, offensively, even though the numbers don't necessarily say as far as offensive production in the two matchups between the Florida Panthers and the New York Islanders, I mean, they have been able to get to the net front. They have been able to create turnovers in the neutral zone and then use some of their speed too. I mean, especially in that first matchup where the Florida Panthers really shot themselves in the foot too. As far as for the Islanders, I mean, what would you say is the biggest problem offensively for them?
I think it's a lack of scoring depth. If you look at the Islanders right now, you've got realistically 3, maybe 4 players who are legitimate top 6 forwards. You have Matthew Barzal, you have Bo Horvat, who is at 29 goals, you have Brock Nelson, who's at 29 goals, and then maybe Kyle Palmieri with 23. But that's only 4 guys, and you need 6 top 6 forwards, and the bottom 6 offensively just not consistently producing. So I think the lack of team speed and the lack of scoring depth has been the Islanders' undoing offensively this season.
Yeah, and in like I said, even though it hasn't been that for the New York Islanders as far as like so far in the 70 games, they have been able to take advantage of them against the Panthers. As far as even in the first matchup, it was right before, it was 2 or 3 weeks after Brandon Montour and Aaron Ekblad came back, and that's really when the Florida Panthers were starting to struggle getting it going offensively. I mean, things really started to change for them. Really, just on December 23rd, that's really when it started. And one of those matchups were after that against the New York Islanders, where the Panthers only went into overtime 4 times in the whole season. And then that weekend right before the All-Star break, that final game, that's when they really started to get some of their overtime games and loser points. And honestly, even though the Florida Panthers haven't really gotten not all wins there, they have put that separation and way ahead as far as the wild, way above the wild card team. So where on Thursday night, if they get a win, they will officially clinch their spot in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But we're going to transition to segment number 2, where Gil is going to ask me any Florida Panthers related questions that he might have on his mind. We are going to discuss that and more here on this crossover edition of Locked On Panthers and Locked On New York Islanders.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a number 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's number 1 sportsbook, FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You could even pick who's going to win it all. And look, you have the college basketball tournament. You could also check out the odds on FanDuel for tonight's Islanders-Panthers game. So give it a quick look. Just visit fanduel.com/lockedon and bet college hoops until they cut down the nets. That's fanduel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Check it out. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Well, make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, and it's streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Armando, the Panthers right now battling for first place, and they got a little help on Wednesday night as the Boston Bruins went down to defeat. Let's start with this. How important do you think it is for the Panthers to get first place in the division?
It's funny because I even pre-recording, I was discussing with you of my excitement level going into this one with the Boston Bruins dropping this one to the Tampa Bay Lightning by a final score of 3-1, and even the Tampa Bay Lightning having a goal disallowed by Steven Stamkos. But hey, it still didn't affect the outcome of the game for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and it helped Florida with 2 points back, 2 games in hand. But in the grand scheme of things, when you really think about it, as far as the Florida Panthers last 2 years, it's not, you want home ice, that you want it, but the Panthers, as far as their style of game, they can play anywhere. They have the best road record in the NHL, one of the best road penalty kills too. It's a game that really travels because we talk about back checking that travels. We talk about battling up against the boards, goaltending, face-off wins. And I know for the Panthers, you don't get that last change, but we have seen for the Panthers, as far as what they've done on the road, that they don't need to rely on that last change. And the fact is, when you can forecheck your way, get your line changes while you're in your zone, you could get your matchups in that way too for them. So I would say there is some importance to it, but it's not the be all end all, as much as I still want the Florida Panthers to win the Atlantic Division, because even though the home record and the Panthers haven't played as well, even though their home record is still pretty great, you know that you can feel confident for them going in any barn.
As far as the Panthers are concerned, how concerned are you about their defense and their blue line? I mean, number one in the league in goals against, but how deep and how effective are these defensemen? And maybe talk a little bit about some of the players Islander fans may not be aware of who are doing a good job for the Panthers.
Oh man, for the Panthers, I mean, when it comes to the depth of the blue line, I mean, funny enough, the Panthers have sent down Uvis Balinskis to the AHL, and maybe that is signs that Aaron Ekblad will be playing in his first game since the first game after the trade deadline, where him and Vladimir Tarasenko collided against them, when the Panthers took on the Calgary Flames on March 9th. But looking like that their defensive core will be back and healthy come this game for the Panthers. But when you think about that fact that OEL, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, is making 2.25 and he's in your third pair, I mean, that's such a luxury for the Panthers as a guy who I believe is a stopgap for this year for the Cats. And Dmitry Kulikov, even though he came back from a 2-game suspension, he's playing some minutes on that third pair. Gustav Forsling, who just got an 8-year extension starting next season. I mean, what he does as far as his ability to break out the puck and just get back. I mean, when I challenge Islander fans to, even off the puck, to just look at Gustav Forsling and how he plays the game and how responsible he is in his zone, as far as not allowing guys to get through and closing those gaps too, and all. And Nico Mikkola, I mean, a guy who could jump in on the rush and get in. And there's a lot of great communication for the Blue Liners too, as far as getting a forward back as well and battling it in when the Panthers, I mean, they're one of the best dump and chase teams in the NHL. That's a lot of their bread and butter when it comes to what they do on the offense, and it's also because of how well their defense plays as far as getting their pinches in too. And also the mission for Bill Zito was to get bigger in the offseason, because they got bullied in the Stanley Cup final by the Vegas Golden Knights. And obviously the Panthers were not healthy going into that one. They were banged up, but even a fully, I say this, even a fully healthy Panthers team was not defeating that Vegas Golden Knights team. There was just no way. So that was the mission for Bill Zito, and it was more of looking for value signings, because you weren't gonna sign real big tickets during the off season. And if you are going to sign a big ticket, even this off season, it's going to be your guys that you have here more than likely for the Panthers, who have gotten you to 4 straight postseasons, a President's Trophy 2 years ago, a Stanley Cup final. You still want to keep those guys around. And for the Panthers, I mean, it's just really about having the size there. And Nico Mikkola the other day, he fought Brett Marchand, a little bit of a size advantage there. So he's not there. He's a guy like him is not afraid to drop the gloves neither. And also a guy like Josh Mahura played 82 games last season, and all the postseason games. He's your 7th defenseman right now for the Panthers. And I mentioned Uvis Belinskis earlier. He got sent down, but he got an extension too, and he's going to be part of the mix next year as cheap talent for the Panthers that they are going to have when you're paying so many star players. So it's been a lot of values that value signings or also value trades, and even waiver pickups. I mean, Gustav Forsling was a waiver pickup for the Panthers. Now he's here for 8 years. It's just really about identifying what works and what Paul Maurice is trying to sell for the team too.
Got to ask you about Sam Reinhart. You mentioned him before. 51 goals this year, 20, now 52 actually, and 27 of those coming on the power play. What makes him so dangerous with the man advantage?
It's crazy, because you think about how for him, it's more than just the power play. I know you asked specifically about that, but just the two-way game, he plays in all situations. But the fact that he's just right there at the right time in the slot and getting the rebound opportunities too, and just he is in a contract year. We can't deny that. For that is the elephant in the room as far as what's going on in his game, and he's been that consistent 20-30 goal scorer. 20 when he was with Buffalo, and then now his game elevated. And yeah, him and Barkov are like Batman and Robin, peanut butter and jelly, whatever you want to call it there. And also their ability to fight for pucks on the walls too. And then when a loose puck happens, the opposition a lot of the time is a little discombobulated. And then with how quick Matthew Tkachuk can get that puck off from behind the net to Sam Reinhart, the way Matthew Tkachuk threads the needle to get it to Sam Reinhart, it just goes quick off his stick, and then Sam Reinhart one times it right there, and it's just a play that has worked. It's not a matter of whether you can stop him. It's just a matter of trying to contain him, and that's really just been the thing for Reinhart all year. I mean, back in January, he had an 8-game streak of special teams goals, 6 power play goals, 2 shorthanded goals, and he leads the team in 5 shorthanded goals this season too. It's more than just he's doing it in all situations, Gil, for the Panthers, and he is like 9 goals away now from breaking the record for the Florida Panthers all-time goal record, right behind Pavel Bure. So it's a really special season that we are watching here in South Florida, and he hasn't been in the best situation prior to it. So I'm really hoping for the Panthers that they get to find a way to re-sign this guy. And hey, Florida does have the tax advantage when it comes to keeping players around, and they opened a new practice facility. So that's a big selling point for not only guys to stay here, but guys from outside of South Florida.
Do you think we see Stolarz tonight or Bobrovsky?
I think we see Bob on Thursday because they do have matinee against Detroit on Saturday. So I do think we see Sergei Bobrovsky between the pipes. The Panthers did not practice on Wednesday, so we still don't. We still won't know until morning skate on on Thursday morning. But I do believe we will see we will see Bobrovsky. But right after this homestand, the Panthers will start a back-to-back on Monday and Tuesday against Toronto and Montreal, and this will be that time to get Stolarz a little bit of more starts, right, to give Bob a little bit of rest right before the postseason.
All right, and for you, the biggest key for the Panthers if they're going to win this game tonight.
It's gonna be 5-on-5 scoring for the Panthers, because it's funny because in their second matchup against the New York Islanders, none of their goals came at 5-on-5. Both of them came on the power play, thanks to Reinhart and Tkachuk, and then the overtime winner by Ulrich and Larson right before the All-Star break. So it's really going to be how can you continue to create your chances on the forecheck for the Panthers. I mean, they like I said in the top of the show, 37 shots in one game and then 45 in the other, and just continue to just swarm and get to the net front, because it for the Islanders, it really doesn't matter which goaltender is there. They're gonna keep their teams, and they're gonna keep their teams in it. But it's all about getting to the net front. That's really going to be the important thing. Get to that net front, and not the perimeter shots for the Panthers, because if they're shooting from the perimeter, it's not going to be an easy time for the Cats.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to this game for sure, and we've got more to discuss on today's show.
Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Third and final segment here on this crossover edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast and Locked On New York Islanders. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And for 2010 night for the Florida Panthers, the Panthers will be doing a ceremonial puck drop with Ed Jovanovski dropping the puck, along with Keith Yandel and Sean Thornton. So a little bit of pregame festivities going on there for the Cats too. So very exciting as far as people who want to relive it, even though it's still recent history for the Panthers in some way. Hey, 30th anniversary, you got to find a way to celebrate some of the decades even. But as far as I want to talk more about big picture for the New York Islanders, Gil. A lot of the conversation for the Islanders has just been about Lou Lamoriello. 4 straight trade deadlines where he doesn't necessarily do something on trade deadline day. A lot of his work happens way before it. But looking at the cap situation for Lou, Ilya Sorokin is extended and all. You have bottom 6 guys like Pierre Engvall. Even though his cap hit is low, the term is really high for the Islanders. But it really for that, when you look at the expiring contracts this season, this offseason, there's not a single expiring contract that's over $1 million for the Islanders. So it looks like that there's going to be a lot of hard decisions, and you see so many clauses too on that roster. So chances are, I haven't looked at everyone's specific contract, but it looks like if someone's contract goes from no move to a modified, there has to be some hard decision as far as a cap clearing trade for what is going to fit with Patrick Waugh's system. So how does Lou Lamoriello go about this, first of all, going into this one? Because it doesn't look like the cleanest as far as their cap situation.
It will not be easy. Lou Lamoriello, the way this team is constructed, has sort of backed them into a hole, not giving them a lot of options. You're either going to need to trade some of these guys to a team that is not on their modified no trade clause list, or ask them to waive the no trade clause. there are a couple of guys who could be bought out, but here's the thing. If Lou Lamoriello is still your general manager, he does not believe in rebuilding. He is going all in all the time. He's traded away the last 4 first-round draft picks that this team has had. Now, he's gotten some good players for those picks. Bo Horvat being the best of the bunch, Alexander Romanov, solid defenseman, Kyle Palmieri has done a pretty good job as well. So it's not like he hasn't gotten something in return, but when you're fighting for the last playoff spot in the conference every year, trading away 4 consecutive first-round picks is not a great way to build your future. And the Islanders have the lowest rated prospect pool in the league, according to The Athletic and a lot of other people as well. So, it's going to have to be a trade, I think, where the Islanders trade someone away and then bring in somebody in exchange, because they may trade another draft pick. But the other question is this: will Lou Lamoriello, if he doesn't retire or take an advisory position, will he work with Patrick Roy to bring in the pieces that Patrick Roy wants to run his system? Because I don't think he has them right now. And one thing that we've noticed about the Islanders, they're juggling lines like every 2 or 3 games, or even within a game, where, Patrick Roy just can't seem to find the right combination of guys to run his system. So there's a lot of unanswered questions there. I've heard some people speculating, and again, it's all speculation. Maybe Patrick Roy takes over as GM and either Lou Lamoriello retires or becomes like the special advisor to the president or whatever title they give him. But I'll believe it when I see it, and it's not going to be easy to free up cap space. How about for the Panthers? I mean, last year, you go all the way to the Cup final. You're near the top of the conference right now. What is the key for the Panthers to finally win that elusive first Stanley Cup?
Man, it just comes down to continuing the goaltending that happened last year, because I mean, Sergei Bobrovsky, what a story when he was inserting Game 3 when Alex Lyon was pulled after dealing with his injuries and his non-COVID illness going into it, and then the Florida Panthers having to write off a 6-game winning streak to clinch their spot, and then all the doubts that went in for him, and it's like, do you go to him, do you not, and all, and just also the ability of Matthew Tkachuk, that his ability to take over. And I mean, and it's also crazy because Alexander Barkov just came back to the lineup too, just in the last game, and we saw his impact right away. And it just really comes down to, when you look at up and down the centers and how effective they are as far as putting guys together, and the balance, and then you bring in guys like Vladimir Tarasenko, who's just so bought into the system, and he even owned a home in Weston, 10 minutes from the arena, right before years before being traded there. So it's guys who want to be there and are committed to the forechecking system, even though Vladimir Tarasenko has had that reputation of not playing defense and all. But from what I've seen, he's been a guy who's just been bought in and all, and just getting, and also it just comes down to what depth players are going to step up for the Panthers. I mean, Anton Lundell hasn't necessarily had the best season. I think this is still an opportunity for him to grow, but what's he gonna look like? But thankfully for him, him and Sam Reinhart are back on a line together, along with Eetu Luostarinen, and that was the line that got going, especially in round 2 against the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's really a line that really bursted on the scene in that. So it's really about different guys to take having their different times to shine too throughout the postseason. It takes a village in order to make it happen for them too. And even strength scoring has got to be better for the Panthers, because I mean, because there's going to be less penalties called in the postseason. The games are tighter. What's going to happen there? And I mean, for the Panthers, I am I there's going to be a lot of low scoring games. There's going to be those 1-0, 2-1 games, and all, and it's just who's going to come clutch when it matters most for the Panthers. And they've done that plenty of times. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk got 3 game-winning goals in the Carolina series alone too. So it's really going to come down to that as far as that. And for Florida, man, I know there's there's 10 games left, but it's like, man, can we get to the postseason already?
It's good to be eager. We don't even know if we're going to the postseason, so I think Islander fans have a little something to be jealous of right now.
Yeah, I saw Money Puck said that it was like 4% chance, and usually my whenever I look at now, especially because the Panthers in 2018, were the highest point total to not make the postseason at 96, so that's usually my benchmark. And it looks like for the Islanders, they only have very little room for error, that they can only drop one more game if they want to get to that 96 point mark for them. I believe I saw 3-6-1 in their last 10 for the Islanders. So it's not gonna be easy for them, because I believe a lot of the teams that there are ahead of them, there's not even a lot of head to heads against them neither. So it's gonna be even more difficult for them.
It'll be a challenge, but they'll keep fighting until the end. Hopefully, a little better than they have been lately.
Yeah. So hey, with the close matchups that we've seen with the Islanders and Panthers, we can only expect that in this one. So so it's going to be definitely a fun one, and hopefully it's a Panthers win. And like I said earlier, 2 points for the Panthers in any way clinches their spot into the 2024 postseason, even though it's an inevitability at this point for the Cats. But Gil, I want to thank you so much for doing this crossover edition with me of Locked On Panthers and Locked On New York Islanders. Very thankful once again for you. Tell my listeners where they can find you online.
Okay, well, you can find Locked On Islanders on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow the podcast on X at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me on X at Ice Wars, NYR VSNYI.
And also, for my listeners, you could catch them on the Monday and Friday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, and he will also fill in sometimes on the Wednesday edition too. So, like I said, big superstar here on the Locked On NHL Network. And for the Islanders feed, you can follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X at LO_FLA Panthers, and find Locked On Panthers anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Gil, thank you so much once again, and we will be chatting for sure. So thank you once again, my friend.
Thank you, Armando. Thanks for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Every day is tomorrow on the show. We'll have our key takeaways from tonight's game against the Florida Panthers, and we'll preview Saturday's game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So make sure you join us for that. I want to thank Armando Velez of Locked On Florida Panthers for joining me for this special crossover episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Have a great day, everyone. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.